Parents over bureaucrats, that is the topic of tonight's byline. I'm having one of those weeks where I wonder, whose kids are they anywhere? Do our kids belong to us and our families, or are we just caretakers? Religious people, lots of them will tell you, look, children come from God, they're a gift from God, and we as parents are just caretakers. Unfortunately, that's not what I'm referring to today. Earlier this week, we told you about the mother in Rossburn, Manitoba that was fined for sending her kids to daycare with an unhealthy lunch made up of homemade roast beef, potatoes, peas, carrots, and an orange. And that lunch, well, it violated provincial regulations on what children must be fed. And so the kids were given Ritz crackers and the mother was fined. I'm not sure when the government got the idea that they were responsible for dictating what goes into a homemade packed lunch, but they can lose that idea. Mothers and fathers, that's who's ultimately responsible for children, but statists, they don't really like that. In fact, Montreal's biggest school board, they're doing away with the terms mother and father. But the truly scary stories of parental rights or parental authority being usurped by the progressive state, they come from south of the border this week. Did you hear about the father arrested for showing up at school after class was dismissed and trying to pick up his kids? Jim Howe went to South Cumberland Elementary School in Crossville, Tennessee last week and demanded the school let his kids walk home with them. As I said, school was done for the day. But since Howe's kids walk to and from school, they're required to leave last. The kids going on the school buses or picked up in cars by mom and dad, they get to leave right away. And with the walkers, they have to stay away from their parents. So Howe showed up. He demanded in a very polite way that the school release his kids. And he was led away in handcuffs. The school says we must follow policy, and that means walkers leave last, even if mom or dad show up and want them to go now. Whose kids are they? There's no custody dispute that we know of in this case. No parents trying to steal the kids away, just a dad wanting his children, and the school, the state, saying no. If you consider that's bad, then consider the case of Justina Pelche, a 15-year-old girl who's now under the care of a hospital in the Boston area. I don't mean the hospital is providing medical care. The courts have actually taken custody away from the parents and given the hospital control over the life of Justina. Why? The parents weren't refusing treatment for some life-saving operation. The parents were not abusing the child, as far as anyone knows. The parents simply disagreed with the doctors on a diagnosis. They wanted a second opinion. When they tried to take Justina home 9 months ago, they were escorted out of the hospital by security, and days later, the courts handed Justina over to the care of hospital bureaucrats. This is the progressive mindset, folks. They really do see themselves as co-parents. They really believe Hillary Clinton's line about needing a village to raise a child. They believe in that fully, and they take it to the extreme. Parents are ultimately responsible for their children. Parents are the guardians of their children, and parents are the primary educators of their children. No bureaucratic rules or progressive judges handing down court rulings can change that. Each time the state intrudes into family life, we're given a new and vital excuse on why just this step is needed. Just let it happen. And now here we are, the state's in our homes, in our lives, seizing control of our children. Wake up, stand up before it's too late. And that's the byline.
The problem is that the way Bush has done it over the last 8 years is to take out a credit card from the Bank of China in the name of our children, driving up our national debt from $5 trillion for the first 42 presidents. Number 43 added $4 trillion by his lonesome, so that we now have over $9 trillion of debt. That's irresponsible. It's unpatriotic.
That was Barack Obama in July 2008. He sings a much different tune now, maybe because he's forgotten history. Ann Coulter doesn't. She has a new book out called Never Trust a Liberal Over Three, especially a Republican, and she delves into issues of liberals forgetting and trying to rewrite history. And before we jump into the book, I want to ask you, I was talking about all these crazy stories of the state interfering with parental rights. Is this an extension of Hillary Clinton's grand idea of it takes a village to raise a child?
Yes, I mean, part of what was weird about that when she first introduced it was there was already too much government intervention in the raising of children, and to ill effect. Before we had public education, the literacy rate was twice as high as it is now. Half of New York City high school graduates from the public schools are illiterate. That's what the government takeover of education has done. And, you always hear people saying, oh, more education, and that's the path to success, and you need more education. Well, that might be true if it were real education, if we're learning stuff.
If it actually worked.
Right, but no, it's always the purpose of public education is to legitimize gay marriage or teach recycling. It's never reading, writing, arithmetic.
Well, we just had Ontario Premier Kathleen Wynne say that we have to get away from that a bit and get into higher order creativity. It's like, no, we're already failing in math. Look, your book is there's a collection of new material and old material. You've got some of your older columns in here, plus some new material. Now, you say that history is not written by the victors. It's actually written by the pushy, and that's why you've got to go back and revisit some of the issues that you talked about in your column. Is that what's going on with Obama when he says it's unpatriotic to run up the debt? And then, you know the numbers better than I have. He's done it far more than any other president. He forgets.
Those quotes are especially good. But gosh, a lot of quotes from the Democrats are fun to replay now, other than the fact that the country is falling apart. They also Senate Democrats just abandoned the filibuster yesterday. They're for certain votes, such as nomination. The Constitution gives the Senate the right to advise and consent on various nominations, especially to federal judgeships. And so that's always taken a supermajority, 60 votes.
Yeah.
The Senate just did away with it yesterday. And boy, back when the Republicans just threatened to do it, it was the nuclear option. It was the doomsday machine.
I believe that Senator Obama at the time actually spoke out against it quite strongly. I don't know. I know that you've heard of, I just want to show how badly Obama's doing right now in terms of even the public is leaving him. You have surely heard of our crack-smoking mayor up here in Canada, Rob Ford, the mayor of Toronto. New poll out today on his approval rating.
Yes, I think our country is more obsessed.
Yes. Well, new poll out on his approval rating today, 42%. CBS News had a poll out the other day putting Barack Obama at 37%. Rob Ford smoked crack, and he gets a higher approval rating than Barack Obama. How does that happen? What's going on in your country, Ed?
Well, no, I think that people are being smart in both cases. When I first saw Rob Ford, I must say I was a little surprised that he was an elected official. But then everyone told me that Torontoans all say, yeah, but he did what he said he was going to do. He stopped all the back scratching in government. He cut taxes. Okay, he smokes crack. And, contrarily, President Obama has a lovely family, looks elegant in a suit. Speaks well, and yet the country is falling apart. And that's really the most important issue for an elected official, how they're doing their job.
I've been trying to make that point all week on a few different issues, saying, look, we've got scandals going on. We've got Rob Ford and crack. We've got spending scandal in our Senate. Today, just yesterday, we found out a sex scandal. We'll get to that later in the show. But this is a bit weird, is that policy actually matters more, and I think you just made that point. Toronto's running well, even with a mayor who smoked crack. You've got a very nice president that everyone loves around the world, but he's ruining America. Doesn't that prove that policy matters?
Yes. I mean, you could not come up with two starker examples, and I'm not endorsing crack smoking by elected officials.
I think we're all in agreement it's a bad idea. Outside of Washington, D.C.
Yes, maybe they could use a little more crack smoking there. And a little less, enthusiasm for changing the world with all their new plans. I mean, this Obamacare, I don't know how you people did it, but it is not working well here, as Republicans predicted it would not, and I don't think it's going to get better.
Where does America go from here in terms of fighting Obamacare? There was the attempt to shut it down with the Republicans in the filibuster. That did not go, I think, as some would have hoped. They actually wanted Obamacare to be repealed. But if you don't repeal it soon, then you will be in a socialized medicine system like Canada. And I have to tell you, Anne, once you're in that, it's hard to get out, because if you're 45 and have diabetes and you've never had a chance to buy insurance when you were 18 because it wasn't available, well, how do you go back to a private system? It's very hard once you're in it. So where do the Republicans and where does your country go?
No, you're right. I mean, that's why so many people like me were enthusiastic about what Ted Cruz was doing. And I thought he accomplished all that I ever thought was going to be accomplished. He branded the Republican Party as the anti-Obamacare party. There was always, the slim possibility that you could get some Democratic senators who are up for election next year to go along with at least a delay, or some Democrats with a modicum of self-respect to at least go along with, okay, we fund Obamacare, but Congress has to live under it too. That was why the government was shut down for the last week of the shutdown. The last, Republicans negotiation, first it was defund it, then it was delay it for a year. Their final request was, fine, you get it all, but you have to live under it too, Congress. They instantly, of course, got a waiver for themselves, in violation of the law, I might add. And, the Democrats screamed, no, don't make us live under Obamacare. And now the key to ending it and saving health care, not only in America, but really in many ways for the world. A lot of medical innovations come out of America, or America doing business with scientists in Switzerland or Germany.
Yeah.
Is for Republicans not to be stupid and to elect more Republicans next year. We have very important midterm elections coming. And by the way, that's a big, big if here. Will Republicans avoid being stupid? And right now they are being stupid, and people like me are terrified. They seem to be, an awful lot of talk radio hosts seem to be more interested in purifying the Republican Party and running against Republican senators in, Kentucky and who's the other one they want to get rid of?
Lindsey Graham.
And there's Wyoming. Yeah. Why are we having a primary against a conservative Republican? I'm thinking we flip some Democratic Senates Republican and worry about purifying the Republicans later. Because it's not going to get repealed without a majority in the Senate. It just won't happen. You hear people, I'm sorry, I'm rambling on too much, but just one more point. You hear conservatives on TV often saying, they were attacking the shutdown, don't get in the way. Obamacare is collapsing of its own. No, it doesn't collapse on its own. No government program collapses on its own. You need to elect Republicans so they will repeal it. That's how it collapses.
Well, it'll be interesting to see if that happens in the next year, and we'll have to leave it there. Thanks so much. I do recommend the book, Never Trust a Liberal Over 3, especially a Republican. Great Christmas stocking stuffer.